Meeting to order
Let me
for, I'm so sorry.
admit the app right now.
Are we ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready? Okay,
Yes.
I'm going to call the meeting to order for September 23rd for the Planning Commission. Roll call, please.
Chair Andrade, absent. Vice Chair Gross,
Here.
Commissioner Quilty, absent. Commissioner DeBolt,
Here.
Commissioner Lowe,
Here.
Commissioner Riley,
Okay, I'm gonna keep it unmuted. Here.
and Commissioner Stoffel-Kanik.
Here.
And I'm sorry, it's Marianne. I'm here.
Okay.
My computer died. I had to borrow my sister's.
Okay, are you the John Hunter one?
I am. I'm not sure how to get the camera on, so. Oh, right there. I see it.
Good.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We have a presentation for Measure Y.
Thank
you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and I appreciate you allowing us to come before you in this forum. I believe that you all know me, Chet Simmons, City Manager here in LaSalle. Before I kick it over to David Kane, our fiscal sustain. Hello? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure. Before I kick it over to
I'm
David.
muted.
Before I kick it over to David Kane, I did want to make just a few preliminary comments to start off the evening. What you're going to see is not going to be new today. I know that all of you have been living this for the past 2 years. I'm sure that you've been involved in different community meetings. You've seen information come out from the city about this. And you've also had an opportunity probably to discuss with your friends and neighbors about what Measure Y is and about the situation that the city currently finds itself in. The important piece for me to share with you is that everything that you are about to see is completely factual. Staff is prohibited from trying to argue one way or the other with regards to the measure. Our job is really to provide some factual context so that you as residents, as members of this board, can make your own decisions about what exactly you see as the future of the city. But also, and probably more importantly, especially for this board, is that we see each one of our commissions as ambassadors for the city. You are our best connection to the community. You provide opportunities to speak with individuals out there in your neighborhoods, when you go to the store, when you visit with friends. And what we're hoping comes out of this is a commitment on your part to go forth and share this information without bias, just so that we can ensure that when we get to November, that there isn't a LaSalle resident that doesn't understand the different ins and outs of the measure, what it's about, and why exactly we got to this point. With that, I'll have some closing comments, but I'd like to turn it over to David. And obviously, at any point, if any of you have any questions, please feel free to stop us and we'll do our best to answer your questions. David?
All right. Thank you and good evening, commissioners. And I appreciate the opportunity to be back. As you may recall, I did a presentation before this group in the fall. And so I want to spend just a few minutes talking about Measure Y and what it is. And so it is a local revenue generating measure that is been placed on the ballot for November 3rd. And it was placed there unanimously by the Los Alamitos City Council. If it's approved, it will adjust the transaction sales tax in Los Alamitos by 1.5 cents. So you've heard a little bit about this. How did we get here? We spent about 2 years in this process, really looking at the city's financial position. And coming out of that, we looked at every expenditure, we looked at every revenue stream, we looked at all of the options. In the fall, we went out and did a number of community meetings in the local parks, came before the various commissions, went before the Chamber, Rotary, Kiwanis. And in addition to that, we also had the opportunity to be able to do 2 surveys of registered voters in Los Alamitos in November and then an update in May. And part of this process was developing a 20-year plan and what the numbers would look like over a 20-year period of time. And what this chart really reflects is the fact that when you look at even short term, the organization is going to be in a position where we're going to use up the reserves that have been set aside for the organization, and we will go into a negative position. This is done because of reductions in revenue over time. Most people are very aware of Prop 13 back in 1978 that reduced revenues. In 1992, the state came back and took an additional amount of that remaining $1. And they continue to take that on a go-forward basis. Our costs for operations have increased substantially. And so we're looking at a position where we're going to go negative, and we had to figure out how we could resolve that problem. And so that's part of what the community meetings were about. So one of the questions that a lot of people ask is, what have we already done? And so over the last decade, we have balanced our budget each year, but it hasn't been without pain, without cuts. We've reduced our workforce by 1/3 over that period of time. We reduced programs, we reorganized, we looked at every opportunity that we had to reduce costs in the city, reducing benefits, changing benefits, all of those kinds of things. When we moved into the 2021 budget, we realized that, based on our projection, and we were pretty much right on that number, we needed to cut an additional $1.3 million. And so we went down that path, again, working with the budget committee and then ultimately with city council to adopt a budget that closes that $1.3 million gap. It entails reducing an additional 19 positions, which include 4 police officers that won't be funded in the current fiscal year. We've implemented pay cuts for non-safety personnel in the organization. We've done some reorganization of departments to ultimately get us to a place where we still had to reduce some additional city services and city programs to get that 1.3 million that we needed to be able to ultimately balance the budget. But the takeaway on that is that that's not sustainable. That's, we've got it fixed for now, but that's not something that we can do on a go-forward basis. So if Measure Y is approved by the voters out there, it would generate about $4.1 million in local funding. And it's really important to understand local funding because it will remain in Los Alamitos. It cannot be taken away. So what is that impact? What does that mean to the average resident's pocketbook? And so this slide really shows that for every $20 that you spent in a Los Alamitos business, it would cost you an additional 30 cents. I think the other thing that is really significant to remind ourselves is that the sales tax measure is also being paid by visitors to our community. So those that come in and frequent our retail businesses that are stopping in our restaurants, at least outdoors at this point, um, they share in providing some of that $4.1 million. So it's not all resting on the residents' back. The other thing is not everything is subject to sales tax. So when you go into the grocery store and you're buying groceries that you're going to take home and prepare food at home, that is not subject to sales tax. Rents, mortgage, services, prescription, medications, um, um, things like diapers, those types of things are all exempt from the sales tax requirements. So not everything is subject to that sales tax. This chart really highlights, if Measure Y were approved by the voters, where the money would go. And this chart really comes out of all of the community meetings that we did, because we asked the residents in the community, what are your priorities? What's important to you? If we put something on the ballot, where would you like to see that money going to? And so this chart really identifies, knowing that the priority needs to be for 911 response, for our senior programs out there, our patrols, our anti-gang programs, our after-school programs, keeping kids involved as they slowly move back into school, after COVID-19, our park and recreation programs, our repairs to our streets, our sidewalks, our medians, and then support to our local businesses and jobs in the community, trying to retain those in our community. So again, we identified those priorities. Currently, right now, the sales tax in Los Alamitos is 7 3/4. 1% of that comes back to the city. The rest of it, as you can see on this chart, the majority of it is going to the state general fund. Orange County gets a slice of that pie. There is a half-cent Measure M transportation, of which the city does participate in that and does get money for roadway maintenance and roadway repairs in Los Alamitos. So we do benefit from that half-cent sales tax. And then under Proposition 172, there was a half-cent sales tax measure that was passed shortly after Prop 13 went into play, and that is going towards public safety. But that half-cent represents about $130,000 for the city of Los Alamitos. If we compare ourselves to surrounding communities out there, we put this chart together, you will see that most cities around us are higher. In the case of Long Beach, Signal Hill, Bellflower, Lakewood, they're all substantially higher. Even if the voters were to approve the sales tax measure, which would move us to 9 1/4, we're still less than Long Beach and Signal Hill and Hawaiian Gardens, neighboring communities that are adjacent to us. So one of the things that gets asked by people is, well, how do I know that money's going to be spent the way that it should be? And that's due to the fact that this money, just as with all of our money, is subject to annual independent audits. We have an annual audit of all of our financial transactions. That audit report then is presented to the city council and to the public. So it's an audited financial statement. Those have been done in a timely basis. We also provide regular reports back to the community in terms of where money is being spent, and then also being very involved in the budget process that we do on an annual basis. So those are all measures that are in place to make sure that that money is going to where it needs to go. So one of the things that we have done in this process is we are putting out information. We've sent out several information flyers. We have a website out there that is Measure Y that is available. And so losalmeasurey.org that you can get additional information on. And I am available to be able to answer questions of this group as well as the community, either via email or telephone calls. So that's kind of where Measure Y is at, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is this the slide that people would see if they were to go onto our website for the city?
Yes, all of the information in terms of the website, phone numbers, email information is all out there, as well as budget information and anything related to financial information related to the city.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I'd like to ask a question. So my understanding is part of the fiscal shortcoming that we have right now is due to long-term unfunded pension liabilities. Is that a fair statement?
That is, yes.
So, so considering the measures under consideration to correct for that, what is the city doing proactively to prevent that situation from persisting, and you know, and just kicking the can down the road on this? Because and the reason I ask is because it seems like this is kind of a common thing in government where you know, pension. There's a lot of agreements that are made to spend money without a plan to pay for those things in the long term, and you know, politicians or people in government service end up leaving that for the people that come after them. And I'm just curious as to what we're doing to try and correct that situation, because this is something that was foreseeable a long time ago, but people in the past made decisions to take on these financial burdens that we're stuck with today. So
yeah, so there would be two parts to that that I would answer. First of all is that in 2013 there was pension reform that came down under Governor Brown, and so anybody new coming into the pension system, and we happen to have a contract with CalPERS, so CalPERS specifically, those new employees have to work longer, and the percentage that they earn is lower than it has been in the past. So everybody recognized that, you know, you're going to have to wait a while for turnover that is happening in the organization. So the pension reform is beginning to see some benefits. The second part of that is that the unfunded liability really came out of that decision. And so there's nobody else new going into the original plans that were out there. And so CalPERS came back and said, okay, we need to fund those. We'll amortize them like you would your mortgage over a specific period in time. And you will have an annual payment that we recognize is not going to be level like your mortgage. It's going to go up before it goes down. And so we're able to plug that actuarial calculation into our 20-year plan. So it shows our costs going up, and then eventually in the far out years, about 18 years out, 19 years out, that begins to drop back down. So we will see a decrease in it because you're essentially paying off that unfunded liability.
Commissioner, if I may also add just a little bit of just local flavor to that as well. So David's did a good job of explaining how the decisions made at the state level impact us here locally. Essentially, the changing of the way that they calculate rates and how much money the local cities have to pay into the fund itself. But the items that the city council here has had control over, I think that both this council and the past councils have done a lot in order to try to curtail that cost. Obviously, we're a service-based organization, can't provide those services without people. And so obviously that's where the vast majority of our expenses are. It's with people. But by implementing different tiers of hiring, I think At this point, we have 3 different salary schedules that we operate off of, depending on when people enter and exit the organization. We've done a lot at the local level to try to control these pension costs going forward. So much so that, we've put ourselves at I don't call it a competitive disadvantage with regards to recruiting, but we definitely have put ourselves, I think, on the forefront of what we can do. We are always, I think, like any city at this point, looking for ways that we can further cut those costs. But sometimes we are, I will say, not the victims, but we're forced to enact rules that are enacted at the state level. And those obviously do have an impact on our bottom line at the end of the day.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you guys addressing that question.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead then and move on to oral communications.
Okay. So we did receive 2 public comments, one for item 8A and another item for 10A. Those are viewable through the city website if anyone was interested in knowing what those public comments were.
Okay, thank you. No other comments at this time that you know about?
No other ones.
All right, and make a motion for the approval of the minutes for August 26th. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
I have Art asking for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mary Ann seconded. All those in favor, aye. Or just do a roll call and make it easier. Can we do a roll call, please?
Chair Andrade, absent. Vice Chair Gross,
Aye.
Commissioner Quilty,
Aye.
Commissioner DeBoll,
Aye.
Commissioner Lowe,
Aye.
Commissioner Riley,
Aye.
and Commissioner Suffolk.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have nothing on the consent calendar. Calendar will go to public hearing for the conditional use permit on item 8.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gross and members of the Planning Commission. Conditional use permit 2003 is a consideration of a massage establishment proposed for 10900 Los Alamitos Boulevard, Suite 129, and that's in the Town Center Mixed Use Zone. The applicants are with us online tonight. That is Woodipat Chiroenmit and Panasara Butasu, I guess. And hopefully they're online there. We will unmute you when it's time for you to speak if someone has questions for you. The applicants have applied to open a business called Chachata Thai Massage. The former use of this unit was as a hair salon. It was Bella Hair Design. The subject tenant space is in the Center Plaza Shopping Center, Town Center Shopping Plaza, Center Plaza. Sorry about that. The unit is approximately 1,350 square feet, and the hours of operation for the business are proposed to be Monday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Currently, they would be required to follow the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines for COVID-19, but after that's over, they plan to at most have a maximum of 7 customers at a time in the business, and they would have 7 rooms, as you've seen in your report, on the site plan for the floor plan. And among other things, Municipal Code Chapter 5.32 requires a massage establishment to utilize only those masseuses who have California Massage Therapy Council licensed massage certificates, and that's called CAMTC. Of the 2 proposed owners, Panasara does have a certificate. The other proposed owner, Woodipat, does not have a certificate, but will undergo a background check with our own police department. Although as owner, Woodipat will not be able to perform massage therapy. He would have to go to the CAMTC and get a certificate through them. All others who perform massage at this business would be required to have a CAMTC license. The application being considered tonight is for the massage establishment CUP, and whether it's appropriate for this particular unit at 10900 Los Alamitos Boulevard, Suite 129, and that it's harmonious with all the other businesses there and with the city. A certificate of operation and massage establishment operator's permit may be revoked or suspended if a permittee conducts operations in violation of the city's municipal code. Staff has reviewed the application for consistency with the municipal code, as well as assessed potential impacts, and believes the findings to approve the proposed CUP application can be made. And that concludes my report. Back to you, Vice Chair Gross.
Very much. Does anybody have any questions of Tom before we move it on?
No.
Okay. Seeing no questions, the applicants are, I believe, online.
Yes.
Do they want to go ahead and identify themselves and discuss the their project with us?
Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Narumon. I am an investor for the Chachada Thai Massage, and also the licensed massage therapist, and will be the lead therapist for this location. I would like to mention that we are not just a massage parlor, but we are traditional Thai therapeutic massage that bring a lot of health benefit and highly regarded in the medical field. Both Panisara and Panisara, the owner, and I have studied and practiced the massage in Thailand firsthand and obtained massage certificate in the state. So Bob is our close friend and project manager, and also Panisara and Wutipat are the owner. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the other applicant have any comments?
My name is Bob Naranjo, and I'm going to be the project manager to get this establishment stood up and running. And as a close friend of the family for many years, I know what this is all about, and that's providing the community with therapeutic Thai traditional massage that is historically been beneficial in Western medicine. In combination with Western medicine, it's been very beneficial to people that they treat. They're outstanding and very, very good members of the community. They also own the Thai restaurant, which is at the same plaza. So that's another added benefit. One of the landlord has recognized that they're tenants in good standing, and they look forward to them expanding other businesses in their plaza as well. So I encourage everyone and invite everyone to consider that they would be a good business for the city of Los Alamitos.
Thank you. I do know that we did receive a letter. I know that's what you were talking about earlier, Maria. That was the only one letter that I know about. Was that the only one?
Or
this project, yes. Okay, thank you. I'm going to leave it open to the public. I don't believe we have anybody there that does want to speak, or am I wrong? Does anybody else want to speak up on the general public on this particular project?
No one else is in a meeting for that.
All right. So while I leave it open, does anybody have any questions of the applicant? No questions?
Just a comment.
Okay.
Are we at that point?
Yes, you can make comments.
Yeah, I had done a little research and I did find out that that they were connected with Thai Lusion, the restaurant, which for me is a positive. It's a positive. I mean, I like the idea of them already invested in the community and already conducting business. And as Bob mentioned earlier, and so that calms a lot of reservations that I initially had, but it just really that I think that's important that they're already invested in the community, so they're a known quantity.
I appreciate that comment. It really goes a long way with us because they've strived for succeeding within the community, and this is just another expansion of their wanting to go into different businesses.
I'm assuming that was the applicant. I didn't see. It's a little.
Yeah, that was. Sorry, that was the project manager, Bob.
Okay,
sorry.
Thank you. That's okay.
Yeah.
Do I have any comments or questions from any of the other commissioners of the applicant or anything? Seeing that I don't have any other comments, I'm going to close the meeting to the general public and bring it back to the Planning Commission. Do I have any recommendations?
Just one quick question, if I could, of staff. As employees are brought in, are they vetted? Are they vetted through our police department or through our staff, business-wise, or like verification of licenses and stuff like that?
Tom, would you like me to answer?
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Commissioner DeBolt, that is actually governed by the massage establishment regulations under Title V of the code. The operators of a massage establishment are generally required to provide a roster of all of their independent contractors who provide services at the establishment. And that roster itself requires routine and regular updates so that everyone at City Hall knows who is lawfully operating under that business.
Okay, great. Okay. That's the only question I have.
Does anybody else have a question of the staff? I do have one just very quick. Under the regulations, Michael, is this through the Consumer Affairs? As I remember, the massage therapy still goes through the Consumer Affairs Board. And do they also do the fingerprinting that you know of for background checks with their licensure?
Yes, so the regulatory body at the state level that now oversees massage therapy is the CAMTC, which Tom mentioned. But through CAMTech, they do in fact conduct all the background checks, fingerprinting, and licensing of the actual massage providers. And then as to our regulations, if we have an operator who will not be providing services themselves, but is nonetheless involved in the business, then we still require full background checks, fingerprintings, et cetera, for that individual. However, they would not be allowed to provide services absent a state license to do so.
All right, thank you. I just wanted that clarified. Do I have any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve CUP 20-03.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Lowe. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Art DeBolt. Can I have a roll call, please?
Chair Andrade, absent. Vice Chair Gross,
approved.
Commissioner Quilty,
approved.
Commissioner DeBolt,
aye, approved.
Commissioner Lowe,
aye,
Commissioner Riley,
aye,
and Commissioner Sofocanic.
Aye. But I would also like a copy of that letter we received in relation to this agenda item be placed in the record.
Yeah, it will.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Congratulations. We look forward to seeing you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I have a staff report. I have the staff report next. Where are you at, Maria? There.
There's none for staff report.
Okay. Next item. Sorry, it's hard when it's not in the book. Can you help me on the next item that we have to discuss?
Yes, discussion 10A.
Mm-hmm.
It's the conditions of approval for the Los Alamitos luxury apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Located at.
Can you give me a report on that?
Sure, I'd be happy to jump in if you don't mind, Maria.
Yes, go ahead.
Before the Planning Commission discussion only this evening is the conditions of approval for the Los Alamitos Luxury Apartments project, which was approved in 2018 by the Planning Commission. At our last regular meeting, the Planning Commission asked for a discussion of the conditions of approval imposed on the project to be brought back for discussion. There is no action proposed with this item. It's merely for discussion only. And before handing it back to the commission for discussion, I would note that we do have representatives from the Los Alamitos Luxury Apartments project on the Zoom call with us who are available to answer any questions you may have and would likely avail themselves of the opportunity to provide testimony as well on this item.
Thank you. One of the things that I would like to also ask for, especially during a Zoom meeting, it gets very difficult to know who's talking. So if we get multiple people, please try to stop and let's kind of keep it to one person at a time. Okay. So I'm going to open this up for discussion.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Salvatani.
Can I ask the representatives from the apartment development to identify themselves and state their titles, please? I see the names, but I don't know their titles.
Thank you.
Sure. This is Doug Dennington. I'm a lawyer with Rutan and Tucker. Represent the Los Alamitos Luxury Apartments. Have done so since the inception. I'll let my client introduce himself as well.
And I'm Scott Felix. I represent the managing member of Los Alamitos Luxury Apartment Homes.
Just those two?
Just those two, I believe. We only have the two?
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I have any comments from the commission? Commissioners?
Yes, I'll start. I mean, I'm the one who asked that this be brought forward, so I'll just and what sparked this this discussion was the evidently the condition that we had placed on the approval requiring a recordation of a notice as soon as possible after the appeal period following our approval, which evidently did not occur for whatever reason. And which was troubling to me. And that just sparked my concern for the remainder of the conditions that had to do with noticing and dealing with noticing or the disclosures that would have to be made to the future tenants. In particular, it would be condition, I think it's number 73, requiring that a separate notice to provide notification of the presence of vapor barriers that would need to be recorded. I just want to make sure that that this requirement does not either fall through the crack or somehow be fail to occur prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. So that's a concern that I have, and would like an update on that, if vapor barriers have been installed that were called out in the remedial action plan and in the, that was all part of the environmental approval that we gave. I just want to make sure that that is moving ahead, and that the presence of those vapor barriers will be, in fact, recorded and put on. And then that's kind of the main thrust of this, is for our council to give us an update on that, and that what happened to the first one isn't going to happen to the second one.
Commissioner DeMol, I don't know if you're asking me directly. You mentioned council.
No, I'm not asking. Okay. Oh, yeah, I'd like to know a status on if you want to reply to that. If our staff has that information, that's fine too.
Sure.
Regarding the vapor barriers.
Sure. And just going back to the original conditions, I did provide a letter, as you know, on September 14th to the Planning Commission that addresses this former condition that I believe it was condition 80. I'm not going to get into a dispute. We obviously have a disagreement on that in terms of what the commission thought would be recorded. We believe it was recorded when we recorded the resolution of necessity. In any event, the former development services director, I believe he was interim city manager at the time, in January of this year, provided an email to the client saying, look, we've addressed this issue. We understand the problems that you've had with this, and they addressed it with their legal team. And given the fact that the soil had been completely remediated, they spent a lot of money in 2019 doing that, and it was remediated to the full satisfaction of the regional board, that the recordation would not be necessary. And that's what we've been relying on. And he also indicated that the only thing left would be to address the environmental condition and monitoring activities, or groundwater monitoring requirements. And I believe that would be in condition, excuse me, I think it's 82 of resolution PC 1828. And so that's what we've been going on. I'll let my client address the issue on the vapor barriers, and I might also just we explained this a whole lot when it was a very long planning commission meeting when back in November of 2018. A lot of items were addressed, but the conditions that were set forth in this resolution were largely a cut and paste job from the next door condominium project. And we objected to those conditions because we thought that they didn't make any sense. Certainly when you record a notice, you record a notice for a condominium like Olson's, then the prospective purchaser is going to get a title report, and they're going to have notice through that title report. That probably doesn't make that much sense when you're dealing with tenants, because tenants are never going to get a title report on this. So really the issue with the tenants is the notification required under condition 82, which we are happy to and will be addressed once we get closer to that point. But in terms of the issue on the vapor barriers, keep in mind that the vapor barrier, that all of the residential units in this apartment complex are elevated. They do not sit on the ground. So the vapor barriers would only be for those portions of the project that where perhaps an employee of the apartment complex would be spending most of his or her time, and that would be the leasing office. So that's what the remedial action plan required. And I don't know the specifics on these vapor barriers, but I believe they've been completely installed and inspected by the city. But I'll let Scott Felix provide his input on the specifics of the vapor barriers.
On the vapor barrier issue in particular, they were signed off and inspected by your building department on August 17th. So that was a little bit over a month ago. The vapor barriers were down. They're in the contract of the concrete subcontractor. They were inspected. They were approved by the city. And candidly, we're confused as to why we're here, why we're discussing this issue, and why we're doing it in this format. Is that the only issue, the vapor barriers, or is there something else that other commissioners have that we should discuss, or should we? I don't know if I should kind of speak generally, or I should just speak about the vapor barrier issue. If there's other issues, maybe we can address those. But I do have some other points I would like to make.
I'd like to respond.
And Commissioner Volsopakanik.
Council Dennington, the letter you referred to, is that your letter dated September 14?
Correct.
Pardon me?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. To me, it boils down to two things. There's two boxes that need checked yes here. There's the box, first box, is there a vapor barrier? And as Commissioner DeBolt said, that was pointed out in the remedial action plan. And as council stated, it only needed to be placed under the leasing office administration buildings, storage buildings that will be constructed on the ground floor. That's at section 4.1.2, paragraph 3, sentence 5. And it does require a vapor barrier to be installed. And it's my understanding, Mr. Felix said that the city signed off on that. It's my understanding that has to be signed off by the county, specifically the team under Michael Olvedo. But to me, that box is box 1, needs to be checked and to be a vapor barrier. And there's also language in section 4.1.2, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, it started paragraph 2. And talks about the contamination remains in the soil. It says basically at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line, residents will not be permitted to access shallow soil. Gardening will not be permitted. And then in the paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it talks about potential exposure for landscape and maintenance workers following redevelopment, which include subgrade repairs. And going to the letter that we received from the Regional Water Board, that letter, in the way I read it, just gives you permission to proceed. Basically, at the end of the first paragraph, it says, therefore, the regional board is satisfied with the extent of the remedial action and backfill and grading operations may commence. So basically, they gave you permission to proceed. A vapor barrier is required on those structures that are on the ground floor. As council said, the apartments are elevated above a parking garage that is ventilated, so there wasn't no issue there of what they call soils gas. So that's box 1. If the vapor barriers are installed properly, that box is checked yes. The other box is the box that is required by the city, and that is in our resolution section, bear with me, section 74. It's on page 15 of 17, and it states, the project applicant developer shall be required to record a separate notice to provide notification of the presence of vapor barriers to future project residents. Then it goes on to say, and it ends with a sentence, the project applicant developer shall furnish the City of Los Alamitos Development Services Department with proof of the notice provided to future residents who can't garden of the issuance of prior to the issuance of occupancy. So to me, we may be ahead of ourselves. If the vapor barriers are in properly, that box is checked. Now the next box that needs to be checked is the one that will be checked once the developer gives notice, records notice of the presence of those vapor bearers. And in my opinion, until that box is checked, no issuance of occupancy, certification of occupancy will be issued.
Well, sir,
that's very plain.
Sir, if I can respond to some of those points,
please.
It was just inspected on August 17th, and it's difficult for us to get our fingers on exactly when the barrier went down, but it was relatively shortly before that date. So it's been about a month. We are nowhere near occupancy. There are probably 100, maybe hundreds of things we need to do before we get occupancy. We have a lot of construction left to do. We're not even thinking about occupancy at this point. So from our perspective, for this to come up now and for this to come up in this forum just isn't necessary. We've tried to make ourselves available to meet with the city, to talk to the various people at City Hall or whoever has concerns or questions about this issue. We've been trying to sit down, we can show photographs, we can show inspection reports. There's all sorts of things we could do to get everybody on the same page. It's very difficult to communicate this way over Zoom. This sort of came out of nowhere. Plans had to be significantly changed to meet this accommodation. And I feel like this is just, the cart is way before the horse. So if you're concerned about notification to the residents, I can assure you we do not have any residents. We're not marketing the property. We don't have a website. We don't have any of those things that we will need to do in the coming months. But we are nowhere near that point when we are going to present this property to the public, let alone have a lease agreement and create a tenancy.
Well, then, again, as I stated, we may be ahead of ourselves here. If the vapor barriers are in or they're going to be placed, that's fine. Let's do that in an appropriate manner, have it signed off. It's my understanding, you said that the city signed that off. It's my understanding that the county has jurisdiction over that, but I'm not going to dispute that. I don't have expertise in that area.
If the city, I'm sorry, there's a helicopter going over me. You might not be able to hear me.
I can hear you.
I'm sorry. If the city's concerned about it, the city's inspector is very knowledgeable about these issues. The water board is in regular contact with our team, and everything's been going very smooth with them. They're aware of what's happening. They effectively wrote our RAP report with us. They were involved in the remediation daily almost. So they're very aware of what's going on. And I would wager with anybody on this Zoom right now that our site is very clean. It's among the cleanest in the city. A massive amount of soil was exported. A very large amount of clean soil was brought in. The site is clean.
I'm not disputing it.
Well, but if the water board didn't think that was the case, we wouldn't be where we are.
Understood. The water board gave you permission to go forward, and that's not the issue with me. The issue is complying with our requirement in our resolution, section 74, to record a notice. And we may not be there yet. So
well, the last word.
Not ripe.
I'm sorry, Doug. The last word that we had on this was January 16th of 2020 from City Manager Les Johnson, and he said the only matter remaining to address is the statement notifying future tenants of the environmental condition and the monitoring activities associated with the site. We anticipate this would be addressed as the project is close to completion and prior to occupancy being granted, end quote. And seemed reasonable to us back in January. Unfortunately, we're nowhere near that point right now, and haven't given it much thought since.
Well, I'll just, if you don't mind, if I may just chime in a little bit. As Commissioner Sopocanic has said, and I'll just, for myself, I expect all of our conditions, all the conditions that you agreed to, that we imposed and that were agreed to by you and your client, to be, to be adhered to. And what's prompting this is the failure to have that initial document recorded.
Well, sir,
be that as it may, I don't want to revisit all of that. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. It wasn't done. Now you want it. So But going forward, there's one more document that needs to be recorded, and that's the notice of the presence of the vapor barriers. That's all.
Well,
if they're
sir,
in it, and that can be done. Obviously, it doesn't have to be done today, but at some point, as far as I'm concerned, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, you'll need to record the notice of the presence of the vapor barriers. That's it. That's it. And if they're already in, they're in. Then all that's left is a recordation of the notice. As to whatever the city manager, former city manager, said to you, all I can say is he doesn't make that decision. Okay, we make those decisions. Those conditions were imposed. I don't believe it's up to him to waive those or otherwise change them. And so as long as the conditions are adhered to, I mean, that's the purpose of my calling this as a discussion item, so that we could discuss with staff. Okay, and you're obviously, it's a public meeting, so you're here to chime in and discuss as well as if you wish. But I'm not proposing to change anything. We're not imposing any additional. I'm not interested in imposing any additional conditions. All I want is that the conditions that were imposed originally are followed. And this is also to direct staff that if there's any question about that there's a need of clarity or further clarity or explanation or whatever, hey, the commission is here. They can come in and ask for clarification if it's somehow ambiguous as to what the condition is.
Well, and sir, we're here too, and we're available anytime you'd like to speak.
No problem.
We've offered to meet repeatedly, and it's been non-responsive in many instances since we were before the Planning Commission on November 28th of 18. It took us about 3 months to get the signed conditions of approval back from the Planning Commission for whatever reason, and I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here, and these are very clear facts. On February 28th of 2019, we signed, notarized, and recorded on March 1, 2019 at the county recorder every single condition that you imposed. So I understand you're not pleased with us, and you think we should have done something different than we did.
No, I haven't. No, let me just stop you right there. Let me just stop you right there. No, okay. There's nothing else being imposed. You're required to record a copy of all the resolution, of the entire resolution, which includes the conditions. One of the conditions is the recording of a separate document, and we're waiting for that separate document to be recorded that indicates the presence of the vapor barrier.
And sir, those vapor barriers went down about a month ago.
That's fine. Then the next thing to do is to record the notice, and you can do that as you get down to the end. I don't care if it's recorded tomorrow.
You don't have a preference as to when that happens?
Prior to certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
So let me just chime in real quick. All right. So let's go back a little bit. So I'm Ron Noda. I'm currently supervising the Development Services Department, right? And so I think everyone here is aware that we've had a lot of staff turnover going around, right? I was told that we started off with a person named Andy. I can't recall his name, and then we moved over to Les. Then we moved over to Leslie Roseberry. So there is some clarification needed. So that is one reason why this discussion was brought up, to get, again, staff clarification. But whatever was done in the past, I wasn't here done in the past. Let's move forward, right? And I think everyone will agree. Let's move forward. And what I'm hearing is, and I think it's very clear, that one, we're ahead of ourselves, right? So there is a vapor barrier installed, right? And that we're months away. I was told by our building inspector, we're anywhere between 8 to 12 months upon completion. So more construction's coming. So then before the certificate will be given to the luxury apartments, there's a lot of resolutions or conditions that needs to be checked, and staff will do our due diligence to make sure that those conditions are checked before we issue that certificate of occupancy. So for our commissioners, right, you've heard it from me. I am currently supervising the Development Service Department. And then of course to our developers out there, Mr. Felix and Mr. Dennison, you've heard it again from me. So let's move forward. Again, I wasn't here. I wasn't known what's going on in the past. According to Commissioner DeBolt, a notice was given, the first one, and then there's a second notice coming in, like Commissioner Sofocanic stated, condition 74. And so again, we're a little bit ahead of ourselves. And so let's just move forward. Let's get this project. We're excited about the project being built in Los Alamitos. Let's work together, and then we'll report back to the commission that all the conditions are checked before we issue that certificate of occupancy.
We like that approach. We desire a good relationship with the city. We've had a good relationship with city staff over the last several years. We've been working with them, and we believe we followed all conditions, and we will continue to follow conditions. And if anybody wants to talk about anything, let's pick up a phone, have a phone call. Let's meet in person. Let's meet at City Hall. Let's meet in a park. Let's do whatever we need to do. And I think that's just a more efficient way to discuss something. And that's what we'd like to do in the future going forward. So something will likely come up. If and when it does, please call.
Okay. Noted. Okay.
Well, one last point. If you could make my September 14th letter part of the record, I'd appreciate it.
Definitely. They will make that part of the record.
Thank you.
And then would you also make the response letter from Woodruff Spratt also part of the record?
Dave DeBerry sent a letter on September 17th, 2020.
That will be included as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ron, also for summing it up. That was a good job. Thank you, everybody. I know this can be a challenging situation. We are not taking any action on this tonight. And at this point, I do believe that we've gotten the questions and everybody's questions answered, and we can move forward at this time. So I'd like to go on, if that's okay with everybody, to item 11, items from the Community Director Services. But I do want to thank Mr. Felix and Mr. Dennington for their time and assisting with this project and answering the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Felix.
Thank you, folks.
Hey, Wendy, before we move on, I did want to address the letter we received. Is the city attorney and staff aware of that letter? Is that something that we need to address at all?
Which letter? Oh, the Kennedy letter?
Yes, Kennedy Commission letter.
Oh.
No, I don't think that warrants any response at that time. It has been made a part of the record and will be available for review if any members of the public are interested in what you're referring to.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that it got a mention.
Thank you, Commissioner Riley. Okay, items then from the Community Service Director.
Tom, you have anything?
Not this month. No, I don't.
Yes, Madam Vice Chair, I do not have anything to report.
Okay, do I have anything from the commissioners that they would like to report? Okay, just as a reminder, October 24th is Trunk or Treat for Los Alamitos. I think that's a really good thing that our Recreation Department is doing. They're going to do social distancing masks, but it gives the kids a chance to now get back out and enjoy some time in the community, be over on Pine Street. You can go on the website to see that. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys for all your help, and thank you for not competing with each other on Zoom. It's very difficult to do these meetings as it is, so I really appreciate your cooperation. And that meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.